In this video, we're going to talk about the last type of problem you need to be able to do to get a 3.0 on our solving equations scale. And it is literal equations, and this is typically where students struggle the most, so we will definitely provide time for you to show us that you know this, and we will use this again later in the semester, so you'll have a chance to show us that you've improved then as well. So vocabulary for this one, first thing we have formula, and a formula is an equation that states a relationship between one quantity and one or more other quantities. Okay, so formulas that you're familiar with in math would be Pythagorean theorem, a squared plus b squared equals c squared. Science, distance equals rate times time, d equals rt is a common one. And then there's another one, more specifically, a literal equation is a literal equation because the letters represent both variables and known constants. Okay, so it's a little different. It is a formula. Little different way to look at it for a literal equation. So you could plug constants in, or you could have constants and then have to rearrange for certain variables. Okay, so first one. Janet wants to calculate the time it takes to earn a certain amount of interest on a principal amount in an investment with simple interest. What equation can she use? Okay, so the formula for simple interest is interest equals the principal times the interest rate times the time. Okay, if we wanted to solve this to figure out how much time it takes to earn a certain amount of interest, we need to isolate or solve for the time, so the t. And those are all really next to each other. I just split them out so you can see the letters a little bit better. But we're going to go and draw our line. And this is p times r times t. So if I wanted to get the r alone, since they're both, sorry, if I wanted to get the t alone, since this is all multiplication, the opposite of multiplication is dividing by whatever I'm canceling. So we're going to divide by p and r. So the interest divided by the principal times the rate is going to give us how much time it takes to earn that much interest. Now, if they wanted to do the next part and calculate the principal amount, you're going to start with that same formula and solve for p. Okay. Next one. In a half hour, Sarah is meeting her friends at the lake 6 miles from her house. At what average speed must she ride her bike to get there on time? Distance equals rate. Rate times time is a very common formula in science classes. And if we want to figure out what her speed is, that would be our rate. So we're going to go ahead and solve our rate, solve our equation for rate, so for r. And since it's r times t, we're just going to divide by t on both sides. So the distance divided by the time is going to give us her average speed or her rate. So if she is, if we're looking at speed, it's going to be in miles per hour. So she is traveling 6 miles, and half an hour would be 0.5 hours or 1/2 of an hour, and that's going to equal our rate. So if you type that in your calculator, you'll find that she needs to travel at 12 miles per hour, which you've also seen written mph. Okay, for the next one, a worker at a framing store is making a rectangular frame. and he's looking at the perimeter. So the perimeter of a rectangular frame is 2W plus 2L. If he wants to figure out, if he knows what the perimeter is going to be and what the length is going to be, we need to figure out what the width will be. So we're going to solve for W. This time, to cancel it, I'm going to treat this as if it were a number and this as if it were a number. So we're going to move our numbers over and solve for our W. So I'm going to subtract 2L from both sides. So I get P minus 2L. It's a cursive L because otherwise mine look like my ones, equals 2W. And when the 2 and the W are right next to each other, that means multiplication. So to cancel it, we're going to divide. So we find that perimeter minus 2L divided by 2 is going to give us our width. Now we can plug in what we know. So 144 minus 2 times 40 divided by 2, and then simplify. So 144 minus 80 gives me 64 divided by 2, which gives me 32 inches for my width. Now, there's another approach you could take. Because you know this, sometimes we don't even need to do it that way. A lot of you would agree that I could go back to the beginning and plug in perimeter, which I know, equals 2W, we don't know our W, plus 2 times our length, which is 40. And we could solve this using a two-step equation. Now, honestly, I wouldn't be opposed to you doing that. Rewriting this formula isn't as important as rewriting some others. Okay, last one. According to Tio's bread recipe, he should bake the bread at 190 degrees Celsius for 30 minutes. His oven measures temperature in degrees Fahrenheit. To which temperature in degrees Fahrenheit should he set his oven? The formula to convert from Fahrenheit to Celsius is this. And honestly, if you looked it up, you could find the formula to convert from Celsius to Fahrenheit is this. Okay, so honestly, I don't really care to make you work through this. Let's plug in what we know. Okay, 190 degrees Celsius, 30 minutes. What do we need to set the temperature at? Okay, the 30 minutes actually isn't very important. So we could do 9 over 5 times 190 plus 32, and that will give our temperature in Fahrenheit. So I'm going to go ahead and do that in my calculator. So 9/5 is the same as 9 times 190 divided by 5. So this whole thing gives me 342 plus 32, which gives me 374. So probably 375. Typically you have it at the 5s. Okay, and that's it for rewriting formulas. Again, I'm not so focused on being able to rearrange it as long as you know how to plug things in and then solve. We are going to focus on linear equations next because those will come in handy. We're going to do 2 of those, but this is where we really are focused. You might have seen this in middle school. This is a line that we can graph. And if we wanted to change it to slope-intercept form, we need to solve for y. So to do that, I'm going to look at my line, and I'm going to cancel my stuff that I don't need by it. Okay, so instead of, I need to cancel the 3x and the 4, but I don't want to touch the 4 yet because it has the y there. So I'm going to do minus 3x on both sides to move it over. But remember, I can't combine that 9 and 3x because they're not like terms. So what I typically do is put that 3x first, and then I'm going to put a plus 9 since the 9 is positive. And then I'm going to divide by 4 on both sides. Okay, and the easiest way to graph this is if we split it up into 2 fractions. So I'm just going to make this negative 3 over 4. And then the second one is going to be 9 over 4. Okay. For the second one, when we draw our line down, we're going to go ahead and distribute. okay, because we need to eliminate parentheses first, and we're still solving for y. So I get 1/2 x, and then 1/2 of 7, we can write as 7/2, or if you divided it out, it's actually 3.5. So half of 7 is 3.5. We're going to subtract 1 from both sides. So you can type 3.5, negative 3.5 minus 1, or you can type negative 7/2 minus 1, which gives us negative 9/2, or negative 4.5. So either one of those work. And that's where we're really focused, is on these linear equations, because we will use those in future units. If you have any questions, let us know. Otherwise, get to work and have a great day.